consuming information is easy, yes, I agree, but what if I want to do something with it?
Well, that depends, because if you're writing an essay or an article, it kind of writes itself while you're researching, whereas if you're doing a thesis, there's a lot more purpose and deliberate thought and action that goes into it.
What about the normal people that aren't academics?
Well, the same principle applies. I assume you're doing research to either support or challenge a belief that you have.
No, because in my work...
Before you carry on, are you looking at sources, noting down information, then using that information to either support or go against a decision that you're going to make? And if so, that is basically what research is, the main difference being the constraints that are in the environment.
Constraints?
Things that prevent or persuade you from doing certain things, like deadlines or boundaries or equipment restrictions, or maybe even policies that you're being put under or you need to abide to.
Right, but a decision is not the same as a belief.
No, but the decisions you make come from the beliefs that you have, or the things that you've made from the knowledge base that you've gained from the research that you've done.
Fine, I'll play ball. Carry on.
So there is a question or an issue that you want to explore, maybe get a different perspective on it, or get a deeper understanding.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You go headfirst into Google Scholar, Research Rabbit, blogs, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, you're gonna dive in.
Oh yeah, I'm still with you.
You find yourself hours into a rabbit hole of research and YouTube content because the algorithm has served you loads of really cool and interesting videos.
Yes.
It's fun.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's going to be so useful.
Yes!
And it's not what you started looking at.
Exactly.
And even though the information isn't going to be useful now, it might be useful, or you might think about using it later on. So you don't want to get rid of it, but you don't want to use it, so you don't know what to do with it.
You see my issue? Research is not easy when you need to put it together into something.
But it is easy. You have it all. You have it all up here, you have it all down there. It's just a case of making sense of it.
How?
Well, for me, I get all of the highlightable points from each individual source and put it in one place, i.e. one note.
Okay, what are highlightable points?
Points that are interesting or relevant to the concept or topic that you're actually trying to explore.
Do you use some tool for that? A specific app or...?
Yes. The copy and paste tool.
But I thought you used Obsidian with like block referencing and backlinks and footnotes and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, it does. And I use backlinks underneath the copy and paste block of text so I can go back to the reference, the source note. And then I also use footnotes to clump all of those backlinks together because sometimes a lot of sources say the same thing. So I just reference them all under the same sort of copy and pasted bit of text.
Sounds like you could do that in like any app.
Yes. Yes, you could. With academic articles and different file formats, however, it is a little bit different because you need to do a lot of fiddling around to get things into your Obsidian, but that all comes down to personal preference.
But can't you just tell me what to do?
No. Please. Okay, I'll explain the PDFs because that's what I use. So with the PDFs, you can either keep the highlights on the PDF and just embed the PDF. You can export the highlights from the PDF into an MD format, or if there isn't that much in the PDF, you can just write a note up like you would on anything else.
What do you do?
All three, because it depends what sort of paper it is. Some PDFs just don't need a note because I might as well just go to the article because there are hardly any points in there, so I just go to my reference manager.
Zotero.
Some PDFs are extremely long and have loads and loads and loads of highlighted points, so I export those into Obsidian, which actually makes my process a little bit easier because I have the notes all in one place. This is also often where I use the content template name in the actual page to bring up the same page twice, so I will click it open again, I will be at the top of the page and write a summary, and then be going down the page on the other side panel, to see where all the notes are, where all the points are, and because I have two screens, I'll have the original PDF up on another screen if I need a little bit more added context of whatever the point is talking about.
Right, okay then, now you have loads of notes with loads of references in, but how do you make that into something?
Again, this is going to depend on the project and the type of project, but all of my notes, so not the capture notes, the original notes, but all of my other notes have a synopsis at the top so I can see what the note is about. I then have links, which are directed links that I think are useful for that, alongside the backlinks, and then I have points, and those points of the pages are normally what creates the outline of whatever the project is that I'm going to be doing.
What about new research?
The same thing. I make a capture note or a source note, and then when I find a point that's related to the project, I just bring it into the project note. Again, a copy and paste over with a backlink reference, so I know where it came from.
You make it sound too easy. There's got to be a catch. somewhere.
Nope. The only catch really is just being motivated when you have the time to do the work, obviously if you get the time in the first place.
Fair enough.
My reference manager is a little bit different because I use tags and folders for overarching categorization and for navigation, unlike in my notes.
Go on.
So I have a stage tag which tells me what stage I'm at with that specific paper. So green, I've read it. Orange, I've got it, but I haven't actually read through it enough yet. And then red cross, I don't have that PDF file in my reference manager at that point in time.
That's the first colour.
Yes, then I have a second colour which tells me what I'm actually doing with that research.
What do you mean?
Well, some papers won't have a second colour, they just won't have a second colour, so I know I'm not doing anything with that research at that point in time. I may have read it, but I haven't done anything with it. It's not in the PhD, it's not in a project, it's not in a recap, it's not a blog, it's just, I've read it. There you go.
Sounds like procrastination research.
Well, yeah, it kind of can be, because a lot of the papers that are in my reference manager that I haven't read are either building up collections that are going to help me find newer articles using ResearchRabbit, or they are references that I may go to later on when I'm exploring a paper, and then I can relate the two different papers because maybe it's been referenced and I actually want to go and see that perspective now. So I have it in my system there ready for me to go. Am I going to use it? Maybe not. It's kind of like a watch later list, but for papers.
Why don't you make links between the papers then?
Honestly, I haven't got around to doing it yet, and because I haven't found a use for it, like, I don't need the relations. I haven't gone and made loads of relations because I haven't found a use, so why would I go and do something if I'm not going to use it yet? I may use it in the future and find it really useful, but I don't know.
Fair enough.
The papers that are tagged can be tagged for different reasons, so they might be a blog post, so a research spotlight summary.
Publicly accessible?
Yes. Then my mocks to-do list, so some papers are fairly new and I want to review them in my mocks, which is a monthly observation of coaching science, which is my field of research, and this list is essentially all of the recent papers that I want to have a look at, and some papers that I grab, I'm like, oh, that's a really good paper, I'm going to put it in my mocks to-do list, rather than just leaving it there.
I'm guessing those papers are around a specific topic?
Not really, they're papers that are new and that interest me in educational science, coaching science, or pedagogy.
Pedagogy?
No, pedagogy. Most research I'm interested in falls under that category. Coaching science, psychology, that could be ecological psychology or clinical psychology or observational psychology or organizational psychology or skill acquisition or biomechanics or anything that's to do with essentially human development in learning falls under that category of pedagogy and educational science, for me anyway. Then I have my soon-to-be PhD tag, and this can actually add a third colour to some of the papers, but essentially it's just a reminder that this paper is related to your PhD research, so you should know what you're talking about when you're actually talking about that paper or referencing that paper, or maybe it's just, oh, this is going to be related to my PhD, I should probably move this up on the priority list.
Why not just put them in a page in Obsidian instead of using your reference manager?
Well, because Obsidian is for notes, not papers, now they are technically all stored in Obsidian in my Zotero library because that's where they are, that's where they're stored, but I don't have a note on them until I've actually, noted them, and then I will just relate the PDF doc with the MD note in Obsidian, which is where those backlinks start to become useful, and then I can relate the paper through the note to all of the other ideas and notes that I have going on.
It kind of sounds like you're making it up as you're going along.
Not quite, but I am certainly adapting it to the environment as the environment changes and as the demands change, which you could relate to constraints in ecological dynamics. Gotta love science.
Editor Danny coming in just at the end to say that this was actually recorded before my eye surgery, which is why I didn't have the eye problem during the recording, but now obviously I do have the eye problem, so those of you confused, that's why. And my system is still almost exactly the same, but there are a couple of other changes that happen, and if you want to keep up to date with how my system works, I do a daily vlog on my Patreon, so if you have any questions or you want to keep up to date with my research or anything that changes in my process, go and have a look at the Patreon, which I will link in the description below.